BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, this is Anna Hill with the Farming Today podcast. This time, farmers in Wales await details of major long-term changes to how and what they get paid for protecting the environment and sustainable food production. We'll have more on that in just a moment. First today, the Countryside Charity CPRE says research they've carried out reveals, in their words, that 2/3 of mega solar farms are built on productive farmland. Land is graded. 1 to 3A is classed as best and most versatile, and 3B land is classed as productive. CPRE shows in their research that 59% of the land used for solar farms comes within those categories, from grade 1 to grade 3B. CPRE is now calling for 60% of the UK's solar power to be generated from rooftop systems instead. Jackie Copley is campaign lead at CPRE.
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to who owns land and if they want to seek a revenue from solar energy rather than food production. And that's a decision that's irrespective of the quality of the farmland. We have noticed that there is a focus on the eastern area of the countryside, so in our fenlands and locations where we have got particularly good soils. And I think CPRE, we're not against solar. We are in favour of smart planning, and we just support renewable energy and net zero, but in a better way. We would say use rooftop solar. It's much more efficient to have energy generated where you've got your end user. Sticking it out in remote locations, you actually lose energy because you've got to transmit it over long distances.
Well, they're not actually that remote, though. A lot of these locations are very specific, aren't they? Because they're close to the cabling that's coming in, that's running through the countryside.
Yeah, that is one issue. If capacity exists on either the transmission or the distribution grid to enable connections, because we've actually seen a number of zombie planning applications that have been permitted, but there actually isn't any connection there. So they've either come forward and haven't been connected or are waiting for a connection. But I think at the end of the day, we need to have better land use decision making. We need to have a framework to understand, how much land needs to go over to energy, how much is required for agriculture, and just make more sensible decisions. At the moment, we've got national planning policy that says you're not supposed to go on best and most versatile, yet our evidence has shown, 2/3 of existing solar farms have done exactly that.
The thing is, it's much more difficult, isn't it, to retrofit solar panels on roofs than it is to put it in a field where it's clean and green and it's right next to the cabling that it needs to be attached to. And it's much more expensive.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you look at other countries like Germany, 80% of their solar comes from rooftop. They took a decision just to invest in new homes, new buildings, having car park canopies. They're a lot more advanced. So as you roll out more, this technology becomes more usual, it becomes cheaper. Our farmers could benefit from solar energy, but why not in the first instance put it on their rooftops of big, large buildings like barns and dairy sheds? And if it can support farm diversification, why not use least productive farmland?
Jackie Copley from CPRE. We asked for a response from the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. A spokesperson told us, as of September last year, solar farms covered around 0.1% of the total land area of the UK. Projects are subject to a rigorous planning process. Wherever possible, developers should utilise brownfield, industrial or previously developed land. Where the development of agricultural land is shown to be necessary, lower quality land should be preferred to higher quality land. Now, Wimbledon may have just finished, but the strawberries haven't. We're at the height of Britain's soft fruit season, so this week we're feasting on the delicious homegrown fruit currently available. Today it's the turn of blueberries, a relative newcomer to the UK, but a fruit which has been staple in our shopping baskets for more than a decade. Well, unlike other soft fruit, none of the varieties on offer here have been bred specifically for UK growing conditions. But as Nancy Nicholson now reports, that is all set to change, and the big reveal is imminent.
OK,
Okay, so I'll just take you into this advanced tunnel here and you'll be able to see the selection that we're really excited about.
I'm following Susan McCallum, a plant breeder, through the polytunnels, the noisy polytunnels. The wind's quite strong today here at the James Hutton Institute campus in Dundee. It's a centre that's internationally renowned for breeding blackcurrants and raspberries in particular. But Susan, this is quite a momentous day because you're just about to reveal the first UK-bred blueberry.
Yes, it's very exciting indeed. Now, this plant has been 10 years in the making, so you can tell how excited we are now that we're able to finally release it. It's been a labour of love. We've had a lot of evaluations. We've had thousands of seedlings that we've had to trawl through to find the best of the best, and so far, this is it.
It's a beautiful pale green. It's a shrub. It's got some berries on it, not ripe yet, green with a kind of hint of soft lilac. It doesn't look too different from all the other hundreds in this polytunnel. What makes it special?
Well, what makes it special is it's the flavour. This plant in particular has got a fantastic yield. It's got a nice crunch to it, so it's really juicy, but it's not mushy, and the flavour is just fantastic.
The berries are really big, aren't they?
They are, absolutely, which is, again, it's great for the growers as well because it's economic to pick, it fills the punnet nicely, and the fruit just looks fantastic in the punnet.
So how many different crosses have you rejected in favour of this one?
Oh, wow. Well, in the last 10 years, I've made over 350 unique crosses, and from each and every one of those crosses, I evaluate around 200 seedlings from every cross. So I have got rid of thousands and thousands to get to this one.
Do you eat them? Do you taste them all?
I do. I absolutely do. It's the best part.
So healthy.
But only for a short period of the year I'm healthy. I mean, we've got a fantastic team as well, so it's not just my palate, because I like something a bit acidic, but this has got such a nice balance of the sugars and just a mild acid. It just makes it really nice to eat.
And the reason for growing a UK blueberry rather than just using the ones we currently have is what?
Blueberries themselves are native to North America, and they were domesticated there in the early 20th century. Our climate is so different, and a lot of these varieties, they're just not optimum for our growing conditions. Our wind, for example.
Which is what we're hearing in the background, the tunnel.
Exactly. So what we've really needed to do is just look specifically for something that's perfect for our climate, for our mild winters, our mild summers, our wind, but it can be quite wet. And the growing season in Scotland is just perfect for these blueberries.
Farmers have been encouraged to grow the crop to meet demand, but cheaper imports have meant prices were unviable for many producers and they've pulled out. It's great to have this, but is it too late?
No, I don't think so. No grower wants to leave the industry, but unfortunately the economics and the cost of production is making it very difficult. But I think there is hope at the other side because the consumer demand's there, the quality of local growing is so much better than imports that I think consumers will demand that we get the high quality that we can grow.
It's too early to taste it. It's still, a few weeks away from being ripe?
Yeah, probably a good 3 weeks away from being ripe, I would say, yeah.
Right, but Susan, can we have the world exclusive here on Farming Today? Can you tell me the name of this blueberry?
I can indeed. Well, for the last 10 years it's been called by the breeder's number, which is 142232, but once it gets its licence, proposed name is Highland Charm.
That's great. That's a blueberry ready to take off, literally. That report from Nancy Nicholson. Now to Wales, where farmers and environmentalists are bracing themselves as the government prepares to announce major changes to the financial support system for agriculture. Agriculture is devolved and policy is decided separately in Wales, England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Welsh Government's post-Brexit plan for greener farm subsidy payments, known as the Sustainable Farming Scheme, or SFS, has been 7 years in the making. Industry leaders have described today's publication of a final set of proposals as a once-in-a-generation event. Ministers say they'll unveil a scheme that recognises farming's vital role in Welsh communities while meeting environmental responsibilities. Stefan Messenger is BBC Wales environment correspondent. First, he explained the background to today's announcement.
So the Sustainable Farming Scheme is the Welsh Government's big plan replacing EU-era farming subsidies. There'll be 3 layers or tiers of funding, a universal layer that's sort of like an entry-level payment. And in order to access this, from what we know already, farms have to sign up to 12 actions or obligations. They range from soil health planning and management of wildlife habitat to continuous professional development, online courses on sustainable farming. This layer also includes a social value payment, which aims to recognise what are described as the wider benefits that sustainable agriculture provides to society, from food production to sustaining rural communities, the Welsh language and so on. And that's something farmers have fought hard to include. There'll then be an optional layer that offers top-up funding for more ambitious environmental work, including tree planting, peatland restoration and so on. And finally, a collaborative layer for farms working together on landscape-scale projects. And debate over the years has focused on how to make this scheme accessible, workable for farmers while ambitious enough to deliver against Wales's environmental goals. And the government has already made some pretty major concessions, such as scrapping a requirement for farms to have 10% tree cover to qualify for funding after widespread farmer protests in 2024.
So what do we expect today?
Well, essentially, we'll get the final proposals ahead of all of this starting to roll out in January 2026. The budget, too, and this is crucial, both farming unions and environment groups make the case that an uplift in government funding for farming is needed. Currently, the budget stands at around £340 million a year. They've asked for closer to £500 million a year. There are also questions about the transition from the existing basic payment scheme to the SFS. Farmers will be able to choose to sort of dive into the SFS or stick to the BPS for now, though funding for that will be cut year on year. The worry from environment groups is that given all the backlash there's been to the trees issue and other things, that the final scheme will fall short in their eyes in terms of helping the farming industry, which is on course to become Wales's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions within a decade, to respond and adapt to climate change and nature loss. Farming unions, though, are concerned about whether there's enough of a balance between that work and keeping farmers farming and producing food.
Well, we'll be hearing from Hugh Iranka-Davis, the Environment Minister, tomorrow. I just want to ask you one thing, Stefan. There's been an update this week about blue tongue restrictions affecting the movement of animals across the border. What's that update now?
Since the 1st of July, there have been restrictions in place on moving animals susceptible to blue tongue, so sheep, cattle, into Wales, as the Welsh Government tries to keep the virus out for as long as possible. So farmers need a licence and then a negative pre-movement test to move any sheep, and cattle need to be fully vaccinated before they can be moved. And you'll have heard farmers and livestock markets have been warning about the practical impact of that, hugely disruptive and costly, they say. So the update you refer to is that from the start of this week, livestock markets in Wales can apply to become blue tongue approved red markets, and that means they will be able to sell animals from England for onward movement direct to a designated slaughterhouse. Now, farming unions say that's a step forward, but they make the point it doesn't help with movement of animals to live, breeding stock and so on, with the clock counting down to breeding sale season. So they're urging the government to work with the industry to see what more can be done soon to facilitate greater trade in vaccinated stock. At the same time, there's a big campaign underway in Wales to increase uptake of the blue tongue vaccines, with the Welsh Government saying, that's the best way of protecting livestock and reducing the potentially devastating impacts of the disease.
BBC Wales Environment correspondent Stefan Messenger. That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.